Mathematics is the science of logical patterns, and truth can be established by deduction from these patterns. And the most elegant of math's truths exists in its foundation, which is numbers. For numbers are symbols which are utilized for measuring and counting. And as Plato expounded, numbers are the highest degree of knowledge, for it is knowledge itself. But what is the opposite of mathematics and numbers? It is ignorance. Man has blinded himself with ignorance. For as Socrates said, ignorance is the root and stem of every evil. So let us strive to find knowledge and truth, for truth can be found in mathematics and numbers.
We have already spoken of the mathematical functions of addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And the next mathematical function is division. Division is defined as the action of separating something into parts or the process of being separated. And the sign of division is a transverse line called the vinculum. And vinculum is Latin for bonds and chains. And the kingdom shall be divided. For there are those who are bonded to Christ. As it says, the time is coming to reward your bondservants, the prophets and the saints and those who fear your name, the small and the great. Revelation 11:18. And there are those who shall be chained in misery. For they are those who dwelt in darkness and in the shadow of death, prisoners in misery and chains, because they had rebelled against the words of God and spurned the counsel of the Most High. Psalms 107, 10 through 11. For the power of the Most High has the power to divide all things. For he is the one who divided the Red Sea. For as the Father instructed Moses, as for you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the sons of Israel shall go through the midst of the sea on dry land. Exodus 14:16. And he is the one who divided the Jordan River into two. Elijah took his mantle and folded it together and struck the waters, and they were divided here and there, so that the two of them crossed over on dry ground. 2 Kings 2:8. For the Hebrew word for division is parad, which means to separate. And the Lord commanded his people to separate all things fairly. For his people were ordered to divide up their debts. If one man's ox hurts another so that it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and divide its price equally, and also they shall divide the dead ox. Exodus 21:35. And God ordered his people to divide up the sustenance of their food. Is it not to divide your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into the house, when you see the naked, to cover him, and not to hide yourself from your own flesh? Isaiah 58:7. And the Son would come to divide mankind into what is his and what is Satan's. For as he said, "Do you suppose that I came to grant peace on earth? I tell you, no, but rather division. For from now on, 5 members in one household will be divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They shall to be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law." Luke 12:51-53. And through his mission here on earth, the Son would divide mankind into 2. For as the Son said, "He who is not with me is against me, and he who does not gather with me scatters." Matthew 12:30. And through his death on the cross, all things would be divided into 2. For it is through his death that the veil was divided into 2. And Jesus uttered a loud cry and breathed his last, and the veil of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. Mark 15:37-38. And the day will soon come when the king shall return, and he will divide the booty with the strong, because he poured out himself to death, and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he himself bore the sin of many, and interceded for the transgressors. Isaiah 53:12. And at the end, the walls of the holy city shall divide the profane from the holy. He measured it on the 4 sides. It had a wall all around, the length 500 and the width 500, to divide between the holy and the profane. Ezekiel 42:20. And the day will soon come when earth's spoils are divided. Behold, the day is coming for the Lord, when the spoil taken from you will be divided among you. Zechariah 14:1. And his servants will give praise in God's presence. You shall multiply the nation. You shall increase their gladness. They will be glad in your presence, as with the gladness of harvest, as men rejoice when they divide the spoil. Isaiah 9:3. And at the end, when the division is completed, all of God's kingdom shall once again be one. For he will make them one nation in the land, on the mountains of Israel, and one king will be king for all of them. And they will no longer be 2 nations, and no longer be divided into 2 kingdoms. Ezekiel 37:22. Yet there is still time before the division will be completed. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them from one another, as the shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right, Come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Matthew 25, 31 through 34.